r/AskReddit. What's the most personal thing you're willing to share with us? Ever since I've become physically disabled, I feel like a huge burden on everyone in my life. If I weren't married, I'd just kill myself. My family wouldn't have to support me, and I wouldn't have to be in constant pain, missing my functioning body and ability to work. I literally miss being able to work retail, and retail is a special hell of its own lol. I'm still in my 20s, and can barely walk even with my cane some days. I spent 23 years of my life in constant movement doing physical jobs, hobbies, everything. And now I have to relearn life without that. Oh, and in its place crippling pain. Plus, you lose so many people. At first people are nice and even supportive, but then they see you aren't improving. You're a bummer to hang out with, and it's a pain to have to plan around stairs, and standing too long, and seating options. People talk to you in a weirdly condescending way, like you're a slightly dumb child everyone pities. I can't support myself and help my family like I used to. My old life is as gone as my shitty body. I hate my body so much sometimes it feels like an Iron Maiden around me. I just want one day without pain, but it won't happen. The only way to escape this pain would be to die, but then I'd be passing that pain to my spouse and family, and that's shitty too. So I'm stuck. I'm trying to find something in the ashes of my life to start anew, but it's so hard when I'm already physically weak and mentally fucked. I just don't know what to do anymore. Edit. I just want to thank everyone who has offered support and advice. This has been the most supported and listened to I've felt in years. Thank you. There's a decent chance I may have multiple sclerosis. I've been having mild problems with balance, coordination, and hand tremors for 6 months or so. Won't know much more until I see my neurologist again. Edit. Hey everyone, this post got way more popular than I expected. Big thanks to everyone for the support and suggestions. Really appreciate it. Here's more info. Saw neurologist for first visit. I'll go back in 2 weeks. Among blood tests they did, ANA was negative. C-reactive protein was mildly elevated at 5.8 mg/L. B12 normal, vitamin D barely low, but I'm correcting that. Brain MRI report mentions no lesions, but I have substantial belief I found something the radiologist overlooked, and plan to discuss it with my doctor at next visit. Understanding the anatomy right, I believe there to be a substantial dark lesion and nearby enhancement from contrast in my left cerebellum peduncle, near the brainstem. If anyone's curious, it's posted here. I don't believe that can be explained by normal anatomy, but I'm not a doctor. I do have visual symptoms. My night vision is a bit degraded. I notice blurriness, especially around lights. I seem to have normal vision during daytime. Not sure about color balance, or if one eye is worse than the other. Edit 2. I believe my color vision is slightly worse in my left eye. When I compare the two, colors look slightly dull. Had a nuclear scan of dopamine centers to rule out Parkinson's. It was negative. Even if I'm right and what I found is a lesion, it's only one lesion and I know the diagnosis process can be complicated. Neurologist is going to do CSF analysis and peripheral nerve studies as well. It may be a while before I get a formal diagnosis, if it is indeed manuscript. I was evicted from my childhood home when I was 15. My mom couldn't keep the place up by herself after my brother moved out. She didn't know what to tell me, so she didn't. She had me take a bag with me when we went to my stepdad's for a weekend over the summer. A weekend turned into 2 weeks, turned into a month, and turned into the entire summer. Finally she told me what had happened, and because she didn't know how to tell me, she chose not to. I lost everything, and slept on stepdad's living room sofa for 2.5 years. It's one thing to have lost my material belongings that can be replaced like my computer, video game consoles and such, but I lost irreplaceable things like the memory box I started when I was 7, my childhood photos and all the dolls my dad had given me throughout the years. My dad has been gone 5 years now, and those dolls are something I wish if nothing else, I could have saved. Edit. Thank you everyone for sharing and such. Yes, my mom did move with me to my stepdad's. She left all our things behind, so she wouldn't draw suspicion, I guess. My mom used to clean my room as a kid when I was out and would just randomly throw things away. I have huge issues with hoarding and have problems with letting things become momentous because get emotionally wrecked when those items get damaged or lost. We moved a lot, so I constantly was forced to downsize. After I moved out and packed all my boxes, I thought they would be safe. Of all my boxes, she went through them all and she kept one file box of stuff from my whole childhood. It was a few photos from my grandmother, 2 kids' books and some old homework and a sweater. The homework had bad comments on it. The sweater was one I got from a thrift store and didn't really like. The real kicker was a baby book that was supposed to mark the moments in a baby's life. It had 2 entries. The first was my vitals at birth, weight, day, etc. The second was an entry at 1 month that said mother has stopped breastfeeding and switched to formula. The rest was blank. It was a huge depressing moment of how my entire childhood had been reduced to moments that were just sad. Edited for clarity. I'm finally facing the ugly truth of age and mortality. My parents and a few other relatives who are in their early 60s now are having a multitude of health complications from mental illness to cancer, and it's scaring the shit out of me. I'm only 26, and I think back to when I was a kid and everyone was perfectly fine. Just doesn't seem that long ago. Edit. First, thank you kind strangers for my first Reddit gold and silver. I've read through just a few comments. Didn't quite expect to wake up to 280 plus notifications. Lol. I've made it a goal as of recent to try and set more time aside for family, and seeing everything unfold these past few years helped me realize how important it is to not take for granted the time you have with those you love. THX again for all the responses and support. I'm turning 26 and my dad just got diagnosed with cancer as well. Early stages and a relatively easy cancer to treat, but this post hits close to home. Talk to someone about your fears. It helps. Edit. Holy crap, you guys. I posted this and went to sleep and woke up with such overwhelming support. I'm literally in tears. For those asking, yes, it's prostate cancer. It's early stages, but he needs treatment. So we are going with surgery. We are very positive and supportive and refuse to put any negative karma out there. He's terrified and seems a little lost, but I believe he will be fine. He's also had stents in his heart put in, unrelated, and his cardiologist wants to go back in again. My grandpa and great grandpa both died of heart attacks at my dad's age, so the cancer plus heart problems scare the living shit out of me. When you're a kid, your parents seem immortal. They're always nabby there. Nothing bad can ever happen to them. As an adult you realize how limited your time with them is in general, and it's worse when you're faced with something that makes you think about their mortality. I'm sorry to everyone who is in the same boat. Seriously, what is it about 26? And I'm here to talk with whoever who needs it. And to the kind stranger who gave me silver, thank you. One of the things about life is that you either lose people as a child or you have this moment in adulthood. I lost a few people as a child, and I took note of the people others lost. My best friend lost most of her aunts, uncles, and cousins to addictions, and lost a sibling in an accident. My friend's husband has only lost one person before, a step relative, and is now, at your age, about to lose a grandparent. The first week that it was apparent was hell on my friend, because she has seen tons of death and he refused to even admit there was a chance his grandparent might pass. He was in denial when they were in the hospital. He was in denial when they were put on hospice, and he was in denial when he was told they were talking again. Then he finally went to see them and saw that talking again just meant able to say a couple words from time to time, and it hit him. Death is hard to accept and adjust to. Losing a parent is extremely hard, and having a big final goodbye is rare. I got that rare, big final goodbye with my grandfather, but that's just not how life works for most of us. For most of us, it's just a sad, crappy goodbye to someone whose mind is only partly there, like when my other grandfather passed. It's going to be hard, and it's going to be sad. but everyone has that moment they comprehend mortality, and everyone can ask for advice. I would talk to your parents' doctors on tips for what you can do to help and to prepare for what's coming, as well as whether you are at risk for whatever your parents have. You will survive, no matter how hard it is. When it's clear someone is ready to go, let them. It's hard to let them go, but I promise you that it will be harder to live with what happens when you hang on to someone past their time to go. I haven't had depression that I know of for years, but I wildly fantasize about dying. My dream is to drive or take a train to a city at night, buy some snacks, eat them on the overpass as I watch the lights, and then jump off, inevitably leading to my death. It gives me excited butterflies thinking about it, and I don't know why. Had the fantasy since I was 14ish. I'm now 22. Never told anyone until now. Edit. I appreciate all the concerning comments, but I don't think I'd ever go through with it. I'm totally aware of how it would affect other people, etc. It's likely the main reason I wouldn't do it. It's just a fantasy. It might help you if you continue the narrative in your head past your death. The drivers, the bystanders, and the first responders will have to see and deal with what happens and cope with the emotional trauma of it all. Edit. Since this is getting more attention, I'd like to clarify that there are definitely other motivators against suicide that we should strive for, but in the moment it can be hard to feel like doing the hard thing, and living might be worth it. For those who feel like they want to do things like this, I encourage you to remember the value that you can have to yourself and the power of time to get you somewhere better. However, when temptation strikes, remember how your death would affect others. Those who see your body, those who see your abandoned belongings, those who wonder what happened to their neighbor, tenant, or coworker. There will always be someone who would notice your absence, and there will always be someone who would touch things and wonder why you did it and what you felt, and there will always be someone who would wonder if they couldn't pull through. Why should I believe that I can? The idea here is to pull you out of the reverie of thinking about your death. I know how hard it is to feel like a useless lump who might as well be over with, but I also know the power of remembering that you aren't the useless lump you think you are, and that to other people you will always matter. My mom is dying in hospice care and I feel guilty every day I'm not there sitting by her side. But I have $1.32 in my account and can't afford to be with her. I live 13 hours away. I also can't call to speak with her because they don't have a phone in her room and she can't get out of bed to be wheeled to the nurse's station. So I'm kind of just waiting around for the phone call and get a sinking feeling in my heart whenever my phone rings. Edit. I should elaborate a little more. When I was first informed she was being moved to hospice, I was out of the country and immediately spent the last $900 I had changing my flight and booking a rental car to go see her for 5 days. I said my goodbyes in person then because I didn't know how I'd ever get back to see her. But that was about 1.5 months ago, and every day that passes makes me feel guilty I'm not there, and it's just a waiting game at this point. Some points to answer some questions or comments I've been getting. This is a complete shithole assisted living facility in St. Louis City and her only option with how low her social security is. They do not care. They didn't even call me or my brother when she was in the hospital. We found out on the 4th day she'd been in the hospital that she was even there by finally reaching someone, only to be told she's in the hospital, but we can't tell you more since you're not on the emergency contact list. She's been living there for 4+ years and I've given them our contact info 20+ times. So if I wrote a letter, it would go in red. When I say shithole, I mean it. This place doesn't even have cordless phones. So that's why they can't being it to her, and she can't be wheeled up. I'm a full-time student back in school at 30 years old and run a small pet sitting business while I'm back in school. I spent the last of my student loans this semester going to see her. All of my clients have been cancelling because when I tell them they need to have a backup sitter in case I need to suddenly leave, they end up just booking the sitter for the job or cancelling last minute. So it's been an endless cycle of not getting work because of this, but not being able to see her because of not having work. That's why I have $1.32 in my account. I don't have any friends or family I can borrow money from. Not that I would accept it anyway, except for one friend who has offered, but I'm saving that for when she passes, and I need to be there for the funeral arrangements. I'm the only one handling all of this. My younger brother has some mental disabilities, and is really the only other family I have. Our mom is biologically our grandmother who adopted us at birth and 2 years old, which because of this, makes me feel even more guilty I'm not there. I'm now her medical power of attorney, and I'm responsible for what happens to her after she passes. The organ/body donation I registered her for won't let us know if they'll accept her body until after she passes, so I'm responsible for having a backup plan. I can't find another place that will accept her body donation and return her ashes when they're done, and the cheapest place I could find to cremate her said he'd give me a discount for $1K, which I can't afford, even with this discount. So any donations or offerings I get/accept would have to go towards that, so I can at least get my mom's ashes back after she passes. I'm located in Colorado, and she lives in St. Louis, Missouri. I have an unreliable car needing some repairs, but will probably be my only option, because like I said above, I spent $900 on my last round trip flight and rental car, and couldn't come up with that kind of money again. I appreciate everyone reaching out to me. It feels so weird pouring out all of this personal information, but the outpour of support and kind comments/messages from total strangers has been emotional and comforting. I haven't had sex in almost 10 years, and I'm mad lonely, too shy and anxious for whatever the dating scene is, and genuinely afraid I'll never have another romantic partner in my life. Warning, long post ahead. But as someone with anxiety who ended a similarly long drought in relationships and has looked back on what changed for me, I'd love to share what it was and hopefully impart some hope. I can relate, but it can change. For me, I had allowed myself to stay broken too long after a breakup, then had a few bad attempts, and then stopped doing things that could change it. Last year I made some changes for myself, mainly in lifestyle and how I approached new experiences or situations. A big first step for me was setting realistic exercise goals, very reachable stuff like jog a mile, walling a quarter of every lap, and then seeing a bit of payoff. As it became easier and I built up habits, I increased it slowly, always keeping it at levels that felt within reach and comfortable. The confidence that I had built up through achieving some weight loss combined with the positive mental health effects of consistent exercise and seeing results, and my own state improved dramatically. I got back into dating after literal years of not even trying by a very attractive and fun woman asking me out, and it was a result of the changes, not the cause. Nothing really ended up happening with her, but she invited me salsa dancing, and I fell in love with dance. I felt so ridiculous for so long when I started. I was a chubby, uncoordinated kid in school who never tried anything physically ambitious, and my self-perception took a lot of convincing to start changing. But good friends and my own craving for the social interaction and belonging kept me going. Now I'm practicing 4 nights a week between private lessons, group classes, and practice for a dance performance I'm part of in June. I never planned any of this. It was just a result of choices and changes I made internally. So, what are you doing today or tomorrow to help you like who you are and where you're going a little bit more? Do something outside of your routine. That can be a positive feedback loop for you. Learn a skill, pick up a hobby, something. If you truly like who you are, it shows. I'm by no means more than even just average looking, but the women I dated in the past year have told me my self-assured nature and quiet confidence are very attractive. I never thought of it that way. It has just been a feeling of I like who I am and know what I find important in the people around me. I don't compromise myself to add people that don't fit. Not saying it was easy. It has been incredibly tough for me to break so many different anxious and self-sabotaging behaviors over the last year, and it's a continual process. But it can be done. I grew some on my own at first, then grew even more when I enlisted the help of a therapist that I connected with and trusted. You can do it. Don't let the shyness stop you from improving yourself. Work on yourself and find more love in your heart for who you are, and dating will be so much easier and natural. But most importantly, you'll be happier anyways. A while back I got back together with my long-term girlfriend and the relationship is healthy, non-toxic, and we spend all our time supporting one another and promoting each other's goals. I'm a few months I'm planning on proposing with an engagement ring my grandfather left me. She's perfect in so many ways, not the least of which is the fact that I know she's going to be such an amazing mother one day. Just a few weeks ago, after 2 years working at the same company being all but ignored, my boss suddenly just decided to take me under his wing and improve my skill set. He's been sharing his 30 years of experience with me, and not only has this helped me immensely in my professional life, huge financial gains already, but it's helped me change my attitude towards life and the way I deal with stresses. I have everything in my life going for me right now. I wake up every morning excited and in disbelief about how well everything is going and how bright my future looks. I say all this because not very long ago, before I got back together with my ex, before my boss noticed me, I was a depressed, drug-addicted mess. I thought my life had no real future and I had nothing to live for. I had so many depressed thoughts all day and all night that I was afraid to be alone. One day I found the strength I needed to turn my life around. I quit the drugs. I motivated myself to work hard. I convinced myself the man in the mirror is beautiful and deserves an amazing future. Fake it until you make it saved my life. Everything turned around so fast I still can't understand it. Time to get this shit off my chest. I have no money, no internet, no cable, and barely any food. The only access I have to the internet, besides the local library or Starbucks, is the 3G data on my phone that only works properly starting at 9 PM for up to an hour or two at most until the 0.5 GB high-speed allowance runs out. Then it's pretty much complete shit that won't load anything. My dad is the one who pays for it, but I don't live with him. I've been living with my mother and things have been one step forward and 2 steps back lately. Our car is old and will not work sometimes, meaning whenever we travel anywhere we are walking on eggshells. My father's side of the family refuses to help me and my mother, and they expect us to fend for ourselves and expect us to magically get decent paying jobs on the spot. Ironically, these are the same people that donate thousands of dollars to charities every year, but they would never dare help us. Part of it could have to do with the fact that we live in a different country than they do, but we still live within an hour of each other. My mother's side of the family will not help because they expect my father's side of the family to help. My mother's father will help us in secret here and there, but it is never enough. Majority of the time he helps us, it barely covers our rent, let alone food. If he didn't help at all, we would most likely be on the streets. Both sides of my family refuse to help in any way, and it makes me want to rip the hair out of my head. I cannot tell you how mind-numbing it is to have relatives with money that do not help. These scenarios usually someone ends up homeless. If it hadn't been for my mother's father helping on his own terms, I refuse to live with my father. Even if it's a better home with money and proper necessities, it is still a toxic environment from my experience, with much less freedom compared to living with my mother. My mother has applied for numerous jobs, but she can't receive any calls from them because the minutes ran out on her phone and has no money to get more. I have been applying for jobs as well, and I'm hoping to receive a response soon. Things have sort of been an endless loop of struggle and being unsure if we'll have enough money to have a roof at the end of every month. It's rough to see my mom not be able to afford clothes or MacUp, but I hope to see change soon if I get a job in this rough economy. I never fully saw how bad things turned out until my mother opened my eyes recently. I also haven't been the best person, honestly, with my attitude that I also want to improve. If I hadn't seen this thread at this exact time, I probably wouldn't even be saying all this stuff I've never even shared with friends. This post is probably too long, so not many will read it. but if you gave it a glance, thank you. My wife of 13 years is so incredibly mean to me because she hates her job and refuses to eat the lunch I pack for her, so she comes home with low blood sugar and unleashes her rage on me. Most recently, she hates how I take 2 showers a day and create too much towel laundry. She doesn't do the laundry, she makes me and my daughter do it. She has berated me about everything, including how I would like a blowjob when we have sex. Mind you, I go down on her every time because she can only get off with oral. It really blows my mind because I know how she had a reputation for being a slut in school, and I know she has been in orgies, but now she is very reluctant to even look at my penis. She claims it is because she was raped when she was 14, but that confused me more because she had such a rep. We went to high school together, so I know most of the men and women she has had sex with. I've tried to talk to her about how mean she is being, but that only escalated her rage. We bathed 2 kids together, so it wasn't always like this, and we are both in our 40s now. I have tried to help her find a new job, but she has what I call a yap, but about every job, house, meal I make, basically everything. I have found that I don't have a place in the house we live in to put my belongings because she stores all her dad's things in my closet. He died 8 years ago and her mom moved on and is getting rid of everything. It's a mess, and when I experience my feelings, she always has to one-up me with her feelings meaning more. I've considered leaving and she replies that she would kill herself. She does little to no chores, and when she does, she demands a pat on the head for doing normal adult things like picking up toilet paper after I texted her 4 times to do so. It's like I'm a single father with 3 kids instead of 2, and one is a hormone-fueled brat. When she gets home, she immediately gets in her pajamas and needs to rest for at least 2 hours before doing anything, and if I ask for help with cleaning off the table filled with her purse, coat, anything she brings home, she will explode in a rage. The house is a clutter mess, and I work 6 days 12-hour shift on nights, so I have little time at home to make messes, let alone clean up after her. I know this is a lot, and I could go on more, but my break is over. Oh yeah, she have me hell for not making enough to make it, so she could be a stay-at-home wife, and she refuses to apologize for her hormones and everything else. Thank you so much for watching the whole video. Please leave a like and subscribe.